There is nothing like being on the ground, talking to people to try to get a clearer picture of the story, which is what we did today in Minneapolis. Right now, there's about 300 people here, fairly peaceful. I guess some Antifa are back there, but they're going to have the fires, food, water, a lot of people in masks, but people are coming out and expressing themselves. And it kind of takes on almost a community civic event. I wouldn't say celebration, but it's a gathering. And although it was pretty peaceful, and it really was. I mean,
did you see how she went out there and explained just the facts of what's going on out there, not putting in her 2 cents or opinion on, what she believes, why they should be there, if they should be there or not, or anything about her opinion was out of it. She went there and just told us what was happening there and what kind of people, what it felt like. And that's all we need to know. Once you start interjecting things like saying, oh yeah, they're battling ICE, or they're doing, things that you are assuming, then that's not real reporting, in my opinion. If you are a legal observer, have you went through proper law enforcement training to distinguish and differentiate what officers are doing correctly and incorrectly? This is the most important aspect if you're going to be a legal observer. I've never heard of this crap in my life, a legal observer. Honestly, in my opinion, it's people that want to be up in the business and somebody decided to throw a title on it, legal observer. I haven't heard about this ever, but I think it's kind of redundant and there needs to be something else behind it.
in that vigil, it was basically people, they had a fire, they were giving out food, water, and, some people were chanting. So that was fine. But if you actually go into the mix and try to chat with people, you end up getting escorted out. And they kind of nicely but aggressively escort you out across their border. So then we headed over to the Whipple Federal Building where Garrett just was. And earlier in the day, you saw some of those, those conflicts between the ICE officers and the protesters were there. And things there, well, they got a little more interesting.
Race to the human race.
Why are you wearing a mask? Why are you wearing a mask?
Because my nose is cold. Why do you care if I'm wearing a mask?
I'm just curious. Just a question.
Agitated!
This is the crowd, and they apparently are policing their borders. So they're policing their borders here, which is fascinating.
Shame! Shame!
Oh, brother, it's so boring.
Shame! Shame!
Do you have a job? Do you have a job?
Shame! I'm getting paid right now.
Well, and as we were
people,
leaving in our vehicle, they did what they can do. They gave us all the finger. I think they secretly liked us, though. But a few observations here. So the protests are always smaller than they look on TV. Many of the folks there seem like they do this for recreation. And there are others that are truly mourning and really upset. And others seem to be people who just don't believe the United States should have any borders. But again, they sure do aggressively police their own borders. And while, again, there were plenty of people there just peacefully protesting, there are just as many people out there who seem like lifelong members of the agitator industrial complex. You heard that one woman, unclear whether she was joking or not, saying she was paid for being there. Interesting. So even if they're not throwing stuff or physically blocking ICE, disrespecting law enforcement, a lot of them just seem perpetually pissed off. Well, and I wonder why. As we see with what's happening is more horrible news out of Portland tonight. Rage is being stoked, and it's mostly being stoked by a party with no solutions.
They wanted a moment like
a party with no solutions. The definition of people on the left, the Democrats. And, there's Republicans that are out there that don't come up with some solutions, but the majority of Republicans do. And that's the big difference between the left and the right. This is the big difference between Republicans and Democrats. And a lot of people are afraid to admit the truth when it comes to that. But we've seen it over and over again with so many people coming on here, and we're about to hear the mayor, say some nonsense right now, and it's going to be towards emotion and not fact. Let's hear what he has to say.
this. And look, it happened.
We should not have ICE agents patrolling our streets. They're not needed. They create chaos, and they even create deaths.
There are going to be protests around this entire country because of the state-sanctioned execution that we all saw.
Blood is clearly on the hands of those individuals within the administration.
ICE has been carrying out state-sanctioned violence in our communities. We have seen them terrorize so many of citizens.
But the worst of the worst today was a slimy comment by the ever-odious Tim Walz, governor of this state, claiming that he wants to calm things down. And then he invokes a Nazi threat.
We're at one of those inflection points that simply asking our government to give us accountability, listen to local leaders, ratchet down the rhetoric, let people feel safe. We remembered, many of us in here in sophomore, when we read it, that the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most important directive. It certainly feels like that in this moment.
Okay, so we want to tamp things down as we keep vilifying law enforcement, federal agents. And I also say, where is the empathy for the ICE officer involved in that shooting yesterday, who, according to the New York Post, was himself dragged and hospitalized by an illegal alien driver last year? The attack on the officer, whom the Post is not naming, happened June 17th in Bloomington, Minnesota, exactly a month after embattled Minnesota Governor Tim Walz labeled ICE agents modern-day Gestapo while speaking at the University of Minnesota Law School graduation.
See, this is what I mean. People that are praising, this woman for being brave and being out there. No, she interfered with law enforcement. And something to update everybody on about that specific situation is that her partner, her lesbian partner, admitted that they were intentionally there because she was a legal observer. Now, let's pull this up real quick. Okay, so a legal observer are individuals, usually representatives of civilian human rights agencies, who attend public demonstrations, protests, and other activities where there is a potential for conflict between the public or activists and the police, security guards, or other law enforcement personnel. The purpose of legal observers is to monitor, record, and report on any unlawful or improper behavior. Legal or human rights observers act as an independent third party within a conflictual civil protest context, observing police behavior in order to keep police accountable for their actions. Legal observers can write incident reports describing police violence and misbehavior and compile reports after the event. The use of video and still cameras, incident reports, and audio recorders is common. None of that in there says that they have the authority to interfere with law enforcement at any capacity. They are to literally only observe and report. They are mall cops on the streets, looking at police officers and law enforcement to making sure they're doing their jobs, which raises another question mark. If you are a legal observer, have you went through proper law enforcement training to distinguish and differentiate what officers are doing correctly and incorrectly? This is the most important aspect if you're going to be a legal observer. I've never heard of this crap in my life, a legal observer. Honestly, in my opinion, it's people that want to be up in the business and somebody decided to throw a title on it, legal observer. I haven't heard about this ever. but I think it's kind of redundant, and there needs to be something else behind it. That's all it says. There's a history on it. The 1980s. When was this established? The U.S. National Lawyers Guild holds registered trademarks for the words legal observer alone. I think it's ridiculous.
And today, Vice President Vance blasted Democrats and the media for lying about the basic facts.
Everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Every single one of you. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. You people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before.
Honestly, them bringing up his prior getting dragged by a vehicle in July is irrelevant to the situation that happened with this woman being killed, because, I mean, that's just, you know, people on the right trying to say, you know, he's been through some stuff, so, you know, he should be okay now. No. Every case by case. We got to take things case by case. And I don't know what happened last time when he got dragged by a vehicle. I didn't read up on that, and I didn't see what happened with that situation. But what I do know is what happened with this situation where this woman decided to interfere with law enforcement. And, you know, I'm having some, you know, civil conversations with some people online about this, because there's people that strongly believe that law enforcement, ICE agents are radicals, and they're part of the Germany Nazi image. And that's not what it is here in America. Now, if it truly was, you'd be for sure. I would be out there on the streets myself defending American citizens from getting actually attacked or murdered from ICE agents or any law enforcement of any kind in this country. That is not happening in America right now. It's not. And people that are falling for these gullible news outlets, you guys need to do a little bit more research and ask more questions. This is the problem. People aren't asking enough questions. They read a headline and quickly agree and are like, okay, yes, we hate ICE because that newspaper told us to. Do a little bit of homework, people, please. Let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments below. If you have any discussions you guys would like to talk about in this, you know, specific situation, drop it in the comments below. Like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Till next time, peace out, everybody. This one's for Charlie.